All right, so I'll make this uh, introduction pretty straightforward, talking about the right to privacy. And quite honestly, I don't think the right to privacy exists. I had another video, and a bunch of them probably talking about rights. And in order to understand what a right is, we have to look at it in its original value. Because if we go using the modernistic terms, essentially I can have a right to Pop Tarts if I verbalize it properly. In the original sense, a right is individual. Your individual right is absolutely unlimited. And the second part of it is it requires nothing from any other person in order for it to work. Now, the way a right can be unlimited is the only boundary it has is the unlimited rights of another person. So your individual rights don't trump somebody else's individual rights. When those two rights meet, that's the boundary. Otherwise, it's absolutely unlimited. Think of it as two two unstoppable forces coming together. So, talked briefly about free speech before, and the often horribly misused concept of you can't yell fire in a crowded movie house. And the answer to that is you absolutely can. Your free speech allows you to do it. However, your free speech doesn't free you from the consequences of you yelling fire in a crowded movie house. If you cause injury or property damage, you're fully liable for it. You're not going to be arrested for yelling fire. You're going to be arrested for causing injury and property damage. So, when we get to the idea of privacy, how does privacy stack up with the idea of being unlimited? Well, it doesn't work well, is the problem. Consider, let's say, I like to walk around naked. Do I have a right to privacy? If my idea of privacy is nobody should be able to see me naked, and I'm walking around my front yard in a crowded city, do I have any right to privacy? Can I get upset if somebody looks at me, if someone sees me, if somebody records me in this state? I would say no, because I am imposing upon other people. In order for me to have a right of privacy, I have to demand that people not look at me. I have to demand that they not use a recording device. At best, I might be able to say that I own the photons that reflect off of me up until my property line, but once they pass the property line, there's pretty much nothing that can be done about it. So let's throw another idea at privacy. Let's say I'm talking to a friend about something I consider private, and we're in a public place, and people can overhear us. Can I impose privacy upon other people saying, no, 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 this is private, you can't listen? No. I'm imposing upon them. I am demanding something of them to make this privacy work. So it gets pretty complicated, and if it has any semblance of right at all, it's not a very good one. So a lot of people will throw up the idea that privacy is a kind of a derivative that comes out of the Bill of Rights. Probably It'll cite Amendment 3 and 4. Okay, so Amendment 3. No soldier in the time of peace shall be quartered in any house without consent of the order, nor in time of war, but in a matter prescribed by law. Okay, well, that sounds like property to me. You can't come on my property. And property as a right works really great. And privacy, not so much. So why would I use privacy here when property works far, far better? And I think we see the exact same thing with Amendment 4. The right of people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, no warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Awesome amendment. I mean, it's probably one of the top items written in the Western world. But again, I don't think it infers privacy. I think we're seeing property. Now, at best, let's say I have papers, and to me they're private and I don't want other people looking at them. Okay, so from a property aspect, you have no right to come take them from me. But could you look at them? Well, okay, let's say you're my friend. You come over and I leave you alone for some reason because I have to go run out and do an errand. You get bored. You find my diary. You pick it up and read it. Have you violated my rights? Have you committed a crime? I find that very tenuous at best. Now, you're a dick of a friend for doing it. And it definitely falls into the idea of earlier idea I threw out about non-initiation of force in the Golden Rule. And that definitely violates those concepts. But it's really hard to tie this idea of a right to privacy there. Now, there's, like, for instance, we can talk about the idea of communications, where if I pick up a phone and call somebody, do I have an expectation to a right of privacy? Well, I mean, the phone belongs to me. My words belong to me until I say them, and then they're out for anyone to potentially listen to. I suppose one could go as far to say that, unlike the example of the two friends sitting in the park in a public place, that there's an expectation that I am talking from one person to another. But I think it would be incumbent upon me to understand what the rules of the company I am using as a carrier think in terms of my privacy. And if they don't meet my standards of privacy, then I shouldn't use them. And in the same idea, the government would fall under the auspices of that they require a warrant to tap into this communication to listen to me, following all the rules of Amendment 4. So again, I'm having a lot of difficulty with this idea of privacy actually being my right, because it demands way too much of other people. Now, where obviously this becomes more pertinent recently is the Supreme Court has come up with this idea of privacy between patients and doctors. Yeah, I mean, again, the conversation in a private office, records of the doctor, to me, that sounds like property and not privacy. Whereas If the records, be they electronic or paper, are the property of the doctor or the hospital, and therefore the government can't just look at them because they feel like looking at them. They have to actually get a warrant. There is no concept of absolute privacy. Let's say, for example, we have a doctor who happens to be a murderer as well. And under cover of their practice, they are able to pull off killing people. And on the surface, it just appears to be medical malpractice or just bad luck, or, people do die occasionally under the care of a doctor. Should there be an automatic expectation of absolute total privacy if the criteria approach where someone goes, hey, wait a minute, stuff's looking fishy there. I've also, heard a few things, and somebody states an oath saying, yep, I have a really good, I've seen something that makes me think that there was actually a murder there, and it wasn't just a patient dying while getting some form of care. It was not natural. Well, then the government invokes its right to warrant and then comes through and looks at the pertinent information dealing with the doctor and that deceased patient to determine if there's a murder. So there's no absolute right of privacy inferred there at all. So if a crime is being committed under the auspices of a doctor talking to his patient inside an office, and then the records of that activity, I don't see privacy as this catch-all that protects it. It's property, and property only can be violated with a proper warrant. So, and this is something I'm not, trust me, I like the idea that there would be a right to privacy, but I don't see how it functions. I don't see how it happens. I don't see how it fits within the definition of a right. If we treat it as a right, then we have to change our definition. And if the definition changes, that puts all our other rights in danger. So if you can see something that makes this work, I would be interested in your feedback on this, because I don't like the conclusion I came to. However, I think my definition of a right is solid, and messing around with that definition isn't to our betterment. So thank you for watching this, and I hope you take a chance to look at some of my other videos.